we'll start with, we'll get to them later.
Well, yeah, we'll get to those guys. But I think first and foremost, there's a lot of thanks to be had from me and from the entire group. This doesn't happen. Obviously I'm sitting up here. We'll have some other guys come up, but it is quite a collective effort to do this. Whether it's been this past year or the last year and a half, to be honest, this is a group of guys since the day we walked in. In a lot of ways, we've had a relationship with, and yes, there still are relationships in recruiting. But there's a lot of guys. Everybody, part of the coaching staff, did an unbelievable job. Our entire recruiting staff did an unbelievable job on campus. I mean, there's just so many people that had to work tirelessly to get this thing kind of wrapped up, and we finally did that today. But I think the unique thing, I don't know if it's all done yet, but there's 22 guys I think that are in the class, 21, 22 guys. A lot of these things get clouded a little bit because there's a lot of other things that are still going on as far as transfers. I think you see from 13 different states, and I think that to me is a bit unique. As I walked in the door here a year ago, I would have said that, hey, we're going to be regionalized in a lot of ways. We'll make sure our footprint is in the Big Ten, but then where else does the brand really reach? And this is my first real kind of go around. Obviously last year was short, but to see how strong the logo, to see how strong the brand really is, and to kind of stretch over 13 different states with a lot of really, really good football players and guys we targeted for a long time. I see how strong this logo and this brand is. That's not to diminish the relationships that a lot of these guys built with these guys, which ultimately is what wins out. But the ability to go across the United States and find the players that we need to be successful in doing the things that we want to do is really, really impressive. And so I'm impressed not just with how they've done it, but also how strong our brand is across the country. So I think that gives us some great opportunities as this thing continues to evolve. But a lot of balance in what we're looking for. If you asked me the first couple things that we wanted to for sure look for in this class, it wasn't specific positions. I would have told you that the running back position might have been one of the top targets for us just because of the nature of the room we were in and what we needed. But I think it was about length and about athleticism. And if there's anything I truly believe we did with this entire group is find a lot more length and a lot more athleticism for us to continue to build on.
Start with Jesse.
Luke, what do you like about Ernest Willer, and how important is recruiting one like that, given defensive line being such an important position?
It is. I think that's, as we've found in the last year and a half, whether it's through the high school ranks or even through some of the transfer ranks, the defensive line is a really difficult position to recruit. So it's got to be about development. And so the thing about Ernest is you find a guy that, you see a guy that, is just scratching the surface. I know he's got a lot of talent, and he's a highly ranked guy. But when you look at him, it's a guy that in another year and a half or a year, I think will be completely different. Get him in with Coach Brady, get him in with Coach Scruggs. What he provides when he walks in the door is going to be a little bit different than what we have. But what he could be in another year and a half is what gives us a chance to go to the next level. But that is one of those positions that is very, very difficult, as we have found. And it's always been that way. Those are easy guys to identify, as we talked about, right? The top ones in the country are usually the easier ones to identify at that position. But he gives us an opportunity to kind of walk in and be something a little bit different.
Yeah, Luke, kind of going off that, with D-line recruiting, Dylan Johnson mentioned to me recently just kind of that wrestling background, not only a connection with you, but like with his family. Just what does that kind of say about, some of his potential and versatility, having so much success on the mat too?
Well, I don't, I'm not going to sell that short, that's for sure. We're looking for length and athleticism, and the other thing I would say that I'm looking for are wrestlers. And it's just the nature of the beast of guys that, that have a little different mentality, and so obviously he might be the top-rated high school wrestler or heavyweight in the country. I don't know if he might not be ranked number one right now. I think maybe our guy in the state is, but he also played 15, 16 football games and hasn't had an opportunity to wrestle, I think, until this past weekend. But I think the thing that he gives us an opportunity when he walks in the door here, he is the culture of what it is that we're continuing to push here. And so I think when he walks in, he's had a chance to thrive. And he's a very physical guy that, I'm not saying it's the length and athleticism that maybe we were talking about, but a guy that has incredible amount of intangibles to be able to come in, I think, be able to contribute and play right away. So I'm excited about him.
Jocko.
Coach, I'll ask you two questions so we don't have to have the mic back. But,
If I can remember him.
I was asked to ask you about Landon Gauthier from Bay Ward for our Green Bay station.
Yep.
And then the second question is, has this job gotten harder as far as recruiting goes? Maybe that's a question for the other guys, but with you know, NIL deals and everything that goes with that now, has it gotten even crazier to go out and recruit?
So Landon we're really excited about, and the great thing about Landon is he'll be here in a couple weeks. So that's the unique thing for him. He gets to come in here starting January 15th or 14th, get a jump start on school, get a jump start on winter lifting with the guys, and then in spring ball. So in a position where we need some depth, and no, not that you count on young guys to come in and to play right away, but the guy that comes in early, the guy that's got the size and the strength that he has. He's got some things walking in the door. It gives him an opportunity to be here early, to be able to go through spring, to be able to really contribute, I think, next year. Is it getting harder? I mean, the beauty of it, and I've said this before, the beauty of football is we have not yet tried to make this game easier, right? I mean, there's a lot of things. We know there's health concerns, but the beauty of what football has been done over the last 100 years is we're not making it easier, right? I mean, even at the younger, it's still a tough football. It's a tough sport for tough people, and whether you're playing it or coaching it. So yes, there are some things that are continuing to change on us as coaches and as programs, but it's the same thing for the guys, right? As sometimes the world becomes a little bit faster and things happen quicker, and the reality behind guys that are going to be great at the game of football, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take hard training. It's going to take the time in the weight room to develop the things that you need to do to be successful, whether it's in college or even at the next level. So yes, it has gotten different. Yes, it has gotten maybe a little bit tougher, but I think that if you're in this sport, you understand that the beauty of it is we're not trying to find ways to make it easier, whether it's for the players, for the game, or even for us as coaches.
Luke, last year's signing day, we talked about needing more offensive linemen. Obviously, this class you bring in 5. Can you talk about those guys overall and what you're looking for the offensive line spot, and then maybe Colin and Kevin as early enrollees?
No, the early enrollees is a big opportunity. But I think that as you look at our guys, I mean, it starts with a lot of size. But I do, there's still a passion to play the game. I mean, we just talked about it's a tough sport for tough people, and you surely isn't changing any up front. And that's, where the game may be a little bit different. And as we continue to evolve, being able to touch guys down the field that you can't do in the NFL, that who knows if that's coming to college. What they aren't changing is the rules up front. And so in particular, those guys have got to be tough, nasty dudes. And, I really like where we are with those 5 guys. 2 of them coming in early gives us an opportunity. It also is, we've got a crew in front of them that they get to walk in the door with the Jack Nelsons and Riley Mahlmans and Joe Hubers has played a lot of ball, and Joe Brunt, a lot of those guys that they're going to be able to walk in and learn from guys that have played a lot of football, that have been through a lot of different things. And I don't think there's anything better for a young guy, at whatever position, offensive line in particular, when they can walk in the door, challenge and work to try to play, but also to learn from guys in front of them, not just how to play the game, but how to prepare and how to train.
Luke, the running back room kind of going through a little bit of a transition, Braylon going to the league, and just for the future as a whole, but the potential these 3 guys have for your running backs. What do you see in this group for next year?
Well, I said it from the start. I thought the most important position for us in this recruiting class was the running back position, and just what the expectations are here. It starts with to what the depth is in that room. Going into this cycle of recruiting, I told us, this is the most important position, and obviously we signed 3 guys, and that's how important it was to us. But I think that they all bring a little bit of a difference to the table. We're going to have some young guys that are going to have to play at that position. And if there's any position where a young guy that's very talented can play, I think it's early on is at the tailback position. Now, there's a confidence level to things, there's an understanding level of things, but I think just the nature of what it is that position needs, I think that young guys can. And so we'll expect that from those guys. But, Dylan is a all-around really, really good back with a lot of versatility that, again, is scratching the surface to the size that he can be. Darion is a guy that I think is very unique in his ability to not just play in the backfield, but play outside the backfield to catch the ball. I mean, incredible ball skills. And then Gideon is a guy that's just different than those two. He's more of the physical guy that's going to be 230 some pounds, that is a really downhill physical run guy that gives us some balance to that room. So 3 guys that bring some different attributes, but all 3 of which I would expect should and could have a great opportunity to play next year.
We talked the other day about the difficulty of this December schedule. I don't know if this is what you're getting at. Would you like to see it the old way where signing day gets moved back to February? And I guess the con of that is that for kids who are ready to sign, they can just get it out of the way and not be bothered for the next 2 months. But I don't know, what's your opinion on that?
I don't think anything's going backwards. So I'm just happy we have a signing day, right? I mean, at what point in time is there not going to be a signing day? You know, I mean, that's the thing that worries you as much as anything. So nothing's going backwards to say, hey, we're going to wait until February to do the signing. If anything, I think it's going the other direction, you know, and it's going the other way to say, hey, let's sign this summer maybe, you know, to kind of do what we're doing. But I don't know that anything's going the other direction. The question is going to be is, hey, as long as we can keep the signing date so that you actually know when there is a actual test date. I mean, to just wait until they report, I mean, like we are with the transfer stuff, I mean, you're just waiting. There's no real, you know, kind of clarification until, you know, the very last moment. So I don't really have an opinion on it. It's hard to, you know, one time it's one way, the next time it's the other way. And, you know, we always look at what's best for us in our program. So for me, the most important thing is as long as there's a date, there's a time when we can kind of push guys towards so that we know what it is that we've got and what it is that we still got to kind of find moving forward.
Okay. Luke, getting back to the 13 states and the plan, at what point in the process since you got here did you realize, or your staffers came to you, your assistants came to you and said, hey, we can cast a wider net than maybe we originally thought we had?
Well, when we came, obviously we didn't want to limit ourselves. So, you know, the idea of, okay, let's make sure we understand where our footprint is, where do we spend our time is going to be really important. And you kind of figure out where you need to spend your time, but it takes some time, right? And to see how well we did on the East Coast, I know there's a history of, you know, great players coming from the East Coast, in particular Jersey, the tailbacks and things like that. But to have 3 guys from Pennsylvania, or even 2 guys from Eastern Pennsylvania to 3 guys, I think, from Maryland. I mean, there's a East Coast, you know, stronghold for what we did this year. And I don't know that I would have known that. You know, and again, you got to give credit. I mean, Colin Hitchler, who's got a lot of ties over there, did a really, really, really good job at building some of those relationships. So I don't know that I said, hey, we're not going to do that, but we needed to continue to evaluate as to where we can have success and where our time is spent.
Zach.
2 questions. Ches Malusi, do you know yet whether he's going to take another year again?
Yeah, I don't know that Chess is sitting out, but yeah, he is definitely planning on coming back and
Okay.
is looking good. Not that he's going to be able to suit up here for the bowl game, but is a guy that we're going to count on a lot to be a great leader for us.
And then going back to the 3 running backs, how do you sell that to guys? Because obviously there's only one ball, and in this day and age, everyone wants it right away. How do you sell that?
Well, I mean, just look at us this year, right? I mean, you never know. It's a position where I don't care what you do. At any place a guy goes, it is a really good program. You know, a top tier program. There's going to be 6 guys that have been the best player on their team. You know, and so you're going to have to go in at that position and work and challenge and compete. And nothing's going to be handed to you. You know, there was a uniqueness of this year for us with those guys seeing it and said, okay, there's older guys there, and you know, nobody else that has a lot of carries going into the season, right? So obviously they saw just, you know, Braylon and Ches and not knowing what else is behind. Now, not that you lie. I mean, we're going to have 5 to 6 guys that are going to be competing in that room, and so I think they initially liked the opportunity. I think they really understand, you know, what Wisconsin has been and the history behind it, especially at the running back position. And then they also believe that no matter what people say your offense type is and style is, that they know that, you know, through the mentality of what we want to continue to be, that if you can't run the football, you're not going to be successful. So I think a combination of all those things kind of add together for those guys to see an opportunity and then to believe and trust, right? I mean, it's not just us. It's not just, the brand, it's also the relationship that Coach Spalding and that entire staff have built with those guys.
Nick?
Luke, you touched on length and athleticism. I had thought of a guy like Thomas Heiberger, 6'4". I think we got him at 6'15", or I'm sorry, 6'4", 215, 220. Guy that's a little newer still to that linebacker position. Just what do you think of how he'd exemplify that, and maybe some of his long-term potential coming early too?
I think that there's hopefully there's obviously a lot to like, and he is exactly what it is that we want to target with the length and athleticism. A guy that played 4 sports. I mean, he was playing baseball last year in the spring, running track, for the first hour and a half, and then after he ran his track, then he switched over into baseball uniform over. He's a guy that there's a lot of different positions he could play. I think we have him listed as an outside linebacker. Could he come in and play some inside linebacker? Again, another guy's just scratching the surface. I mean, we've seen, at least I have, and you guys have seen a little bit of what Christian Allegro has done this year with a guy that would be in a similar mold of saying, okay, he's got some length, he's got some athleticism. Now we just got to find him, kind of the fit and the position and continue to build. And that's exactly what Thomas is. The great thing about Thomas is he gets to come in here in a few weeks, gets a jump start on not just, being in the football program, but training with our guys. And so we'll get a better idea of, where we can kind of get him, positioned in the spring to give him as much opportunity, as many reps as possible, because he's another guy that I would say he needs to help us and play next year. Just got to figure out where.
Jesse, then Colton.
Luke, it's probably not a coincidence that the teams that generally show up in the college football playoff every year have some of the best recruiting classes in the country. Obviously, things are changing with an expanded playoff next year, but in your mind, how important is it for Wisconsin as a program to consistently elevate the level of talent that you're bringing in, whether or not you say they're a 4-star or a 5-star or whatever?
It's twofold. It's the ability to recruit, but it's also ability to retain and develop. And I think that, not selling anybody else short. I mean, obviously, we've got guys here that are continuing to be, developed. But I think each and every year, if you miss a cycle, if you come up short, like last year, we only have taken 11 high school kids. That's not good. We had to do it, and it was the situation we were in, but that's not the way that we want to continue to build our program. Right now I think we've got 22 high school kids, and that's the way that which we want to do it. Now, as we understand that the world is changing and this college is evolving, that we have to be able to retain those guys every bit as much as we have to develop. So there's a part of that of consistency to what you're doing, but you got to get them in the door to start with. And regardless if it's high school guys or even some of the transfer guys, we want to have guys that have multiple years, so they can spend them within our program, build those relationships, develop the things that we want to do, to give us to me, to solidify the strength of our program. And it's not going to change, no matter what continues to evolve throughout college football, right? I mean, yes, rankings do matter, and that's the start of it, but then, try to get those rankings in 2 more years to see where those guys are. And that's where we feel like we've got to do a better job than everybody else of projecting what fits us, the things that we can do with them, and then what they look like in 2 years. And that has a lot to do with the philosophy of, hey, let's find length, let's find athleticism. Obviously everybody wants great football players. The thing you got to dive into is where's their love and passion for this game, because so much of it is a part of the development.
Look, you've had maybe Matoya committed basically like first month you got here. What have you learned about him over the past year, getting to see him go through an off season and a full season as a senior, and then just knowing he's going to be here in 2 weeks?
Again, how much do I learn? I mean, to actually watch him play, we don't get that much time to go down and watch him in person. But I've learned what kind of person he is, what kind of family he's got. His just coming up here and spending some weekends and things like that. More than anything, we've got a guy that's very well-rounded. We've got a guy that position in particular that is humble and hardworking. And I think that you can't ask for anything more. We know he's got talent. It's pretty easy to pop on the tape, see his size, see his ability to run, see his ability to throw the ball. There's a lot of development that he will still have to continue to do. But I think he's got the makings of what it is I want to be a guy that can lead this program. And it starts with some humility, it starts with a work ethic, and it starts with understanding that the guys up front really matter. And since he started off as an offensive lineman, since his brother's a starting offensive lineman in Oklahoma, he understands where the game is won, even though the most important position is still the quarterback. They're the multiplier, they've got to be a leader. he really deeply understands what it takes, I think.
Hey, Coach. I wanted to ask about the a big storyline heading into today was Xavier Lucas and him choosing, like him going to Miami recently. And I'm just curious, what's going through your head during a contentious kind of battles like that? And is there anything that you can really do?
I walked away. You can ask Pat and Max and the boys when they come up here, because I kind of just had to back away and let them guys go at it. I think it was about 10 o'clock, 10:30 last night. I kind of shut it down, and I don't think Pat did until the actual papers came across today. So there are battles. There are those kinds of things that you continue to go through. But I don't. At some point in time, you kind of you don't have a whole lot of say in it, right? And you kind of put your whole spiel out there, and ultimately the guy's got to trust and believe in what it is that you're saying, because that's, at this point in time, you're not going to get face to face with him. You're not going to be able to do a whole lot different. You've had to have built up that equity in the time that they were here, the time you were there, and obviously not me, but Coach Haynes and the entire recruiting staff in particular. Pat over there that maybe lost a few years on his life on this one today, did an unbelievable job, and we're happy to have him. I know it wasn't easy for him or any of these guys, but I think that's what sometimes makes it that much more exciting.
Any other questions for Coach?
We're gonna bring these other guys up here. They're finely dressed. Okay, hold on, we'll let you go ahead.
One more.
I know I asked about the running backs in general, but kind of similar question that Colton had with Darian, kind of learning about his background, his culture, where he's coming from, the high school and everything. Have you gotten to build that relationship with Darian and learn where he's coming from?
Yeah, I mean, I think the unique thing is him being from Chicago and being 2 hours away. That was probably one of the #1 targets for us as we started this class. He was a guy that we'd been on from the very get-go, that we pushed and pushed and pushed to try to be one of the guys that commit really early and be the first one. And he did his due diligence. They had a plan. They wanted to be able to see a lot of different places. They wanted to make sure that this was the right fit and everything that he was doing. So they went about it the right way. We would have liked to have been a little bit quicker and sooner, but that gave us an opportunity to really kind of get to know him, what really makes him tick, where he comes from. And it's nice when you take a guy from a program where you know a lot about how they've been coached, what their expectations are, the school that they've gone to, knowing what the expectations have been like for them off the field and in the spotlight. It makes you feel really good about the guy walking in the door and understanding not just about our culture, the expectations we have, not just on the field but off the field. So that's why another reason why I expect he's a guy that can walk right in the door here and have a great opportunity to contribute and play well. So
Now you can introduce them.
we'll bring these other guys up here. They're obviously sharp. Most of them are sharp dressed guys, but there's no. I mean, these guys will obviously, you get behind the scenes, how much they work is incredible.